Buried beneath kilometers of glacial silence, the Omniplex lab does not breathe. It calculates. Ice groans above, ancient and indifferent. Below, purity reigns. White walls, seamless steel, air so filtered it smells of nothing at all. In this crucible of rationality, where no sound ever rises, Dr. Eli Quinn moves like a shadow, hushed, careful, invisible. A silent neurobiologist among machines that govern the world, Eli watches the screens flicker with thought, electro patterns, neural symphonies compressed into data clusters. He inputs calibration strings through gloved fingers, not a word spoken. He does not need to speak. His code sings in perfect silence. Names scroll past like falling ash. Citizens flagged for deviation. A spike of empathy here, a rogue idea there. Neural scans turn thoughts into threats. Charts flare red, then vanish into cold archives. One chart catches. One name stabs. S. Quen, his sister. Eli's hand trembles just long enough to betray memory. Her laughter had once filled a world. She had dared to dream, to feel. She had written hope into protests, fed stories to the starving. He remembers the day they took her. White drones descending, the smell of ozone, her scream cut mid-sentence. Her name fades into the void. He resumes typing. In a compartment behind false data shelves, he hides the only things that still bleed. A paper notebook, a graphite pencil, the last real things in a world of synthetic truth. He opens the pages carefully, not from fear, no one checks him, but from reverence. Each page holds fragments of rebellion, sketches of eyes filled with fury, verses etched in looping script. To feel is not to fail, one reads. Another, she lives where silence breaks. The pencil is worn to a nub. He writes not to archive memory, but to defy forgetting. He writes because someone must. She stares into the one-way glass like she knows it's there. Soraya Vale, her hands bound, her body bruised, but her posture unbent. Interrogation rounds loop endlessly. Neural dampeners, trauma feeds, algorithmic truth-bending, but her mind resists every rewrite. Her stories spill like fire, myths of sky and soil, of children born free, of stars unchained by logic. She talks even when no one listens. Eli listens. He always listens. Her neural signature flares into anomaly. Emotional bandwidth off the scale. Memory retention beyond suppression tolerance. She feels undiluted and unbroken. The machines don't understand her. He does. The scan finishes. No error. She's not just resistant. She's immune. Category 0. The rarest designation. Total rejection of all cognitive rewrites. Statistically impossible. Existential threat. The protocol flashes in silent red. Immediate retirement required. No hearing. No override. Eli's hand hovers above the kill command. He stares at the screen until the numbers blur. She should not exist, but she does. And somehow, that means something. He deletes the scan. Encrypts her file behind layers of false mortality. Inserts a termination tag. Changes the logs. Body incinerated, brain matter unstable. Done. Gone. But she's not. He disables camera cluster 8 to 14. Reroutes visual feeds through a recursive loop. Drops automated alerts into dead-end queues. Then rewrites access permissions and overrides door seals. Each step is treason. Each line of code, a heartbeat closer to execution. He programs a waste crate with cryo-safe insulation. Slips her unconscious form inside. Her chest barely moves. Her hair is singed at the edges. Her pulse is stubborn. The crate slides into disposal protocol gamma. Never checked, always burned. He intercepts it before the incinerator wakes. He opens it. Her eyes flutter. She stares up at him, wild, defiant, confused. He says nothing. He cannot. Instead, he types onto his datapad and shows her one sentence. This place is wrong. They move through the emergency shafts beneath reactor subgrid 4. Soraya limps, but doesn't slow. Her breath fogs in air, proof of life in a place meant for death. Eli carries the only map, lines of blue and red glowing on his pad, traced by a mind that's memorized every inch of the Omniplex's underbelly. Behind them, drone sentries reboot. The system is beginning to notice. Not yet, but soon. He watches her. Not the threat level, not the anomaly, but her. The way she scans every corridor like it might fight back. The way her silence meets his, unspoken and sharp-edged. She was supposed to vanish. Now she's alive, and he is no longer invisible. At the waste tunnel's mouth, light breaks, harsh and cold and real. They step into a sub-zero wind that could kill but doesn't. Soraya turns to him. She studies him, like she's trying to make sense of his betrayal of order, of her resurrection. He types again, slowly, deliberately. You were not wrong to feel. For a long moment, she says nothing. Then, only then, she nods. Back inside, alarms begin to chirp. Low, mechanical pulses like a machine trying to remember how to be afraid. The Omniplex has detected inconsistency. That's all it needs. In 30 minutes, purge drones will scour the lower decks. The retirement logs will be reanalyzed. There will be no leniency for the scientist who rewrote death. But Eli is already gone, and Soraya Vale is free. Somewhere beyond the data, beyond the protocols, beyond the ice. Humanity is sparked again. The hauler groans, steel protesting each motion as it grinds through a glacial ravine. Shards of ancient ice flicker in the floodlights, tall as walls, older than memory. Inside the chassis, heat bleeds away too fast. Machines hum to keep death at bay. Oxygen whispers from filtered vents. Soraya lies in a med pod, cocooned in cables and warmth she didn't ask for. Eli sits nearby, unmoving, his datapad resting on his lap. He has not blinked in minutes. Her readings spike, heart rate, cortical recovery. She stirs. The hauler lurches. And somewhere, deep in Omniplex mainframe strata, a pulse is recorded. Unauthorized neural variants. A dormant node, reactivated. The system watches and begins to awaken. She claws herself upright, half dreaming, half feral. Rips tubes from her arms. Blood spatters like exclamation points. Eli rises, palms open. She grabs a scalpel from the surgical kit, crosses the space in one breathless lunge, pins him to the bulkhead, blade pressed to his neck. His eyes do not flinch. He lifts the datapad. You were supposed to die. I couldn't let it happen. The words still her, just for a heartbeat. Confusion cuts through anger. She stares at his face. It's not fear there, not arrogance, not control, just a terrible, quiet sorrow. The scalpel lowers, but her rage doesn't. It only changes shape. The hatch slams open, steam curling around boots. Rin Takura strides in, her jacket flaring like a banner. Her right arm, cybernetic and scuffed, hums low. Red light flickers along its length. She sees Eli. Freezes. Is this a joke? She growls. You brought one of them. Soraya intercepts her. He's not what you think. I think he's the reason half our network's dead. Rin snaps. Eli steps back. Rin follows. Her eyes are coals. Her fist tightens. Soraya blocks her again. We don't have time, she says. Omniplex is coming. Rin doesn't relent. But she doesn't strike. Instead, she leans in close. This goes sideways. She hisses, I'll put him down myself. Eli nods once. He already knows. The listening post was a graveyard until they woke the ghost. Wires stretch from the ship into the blackened servers of a fallen satellite relay. Circuits flicker. A voice stirs. Echoes, ecosystems sigh in code. Mother Delta, what's left of her? A fragmented AI once designed to monitor human empathy in deep space colonies. Now she speaks in riddles, but her logic still slices sharp. Lies ride the cold winds. Data screams. You want escape? Then give me purpose again. They upload her into the hauler's secondary drive. Ah, she hums. To move, not to float. Thank you, storm children. Soraya watches the light panels glow. Rin mutters a curse. Eli smiles. Just faintly. Even broken ghosts can guide the living. The Omniplex sees deviation as disease. And Eli's biometric shift is a symptom. Deep in Arctic satellites, Pulse traps engage. Drone's power on. On board the hauler. Alarms blink. Delta's voice flickers in from the NAV. They've asked the sky to answer. You won't like what it says. Rin throws the hauler into overdrive. Thrusters scream. Ice fractures. Eli plugs into the hauler's neural dampeners, desperately scrubbing their signals. One by one, he wipes their tags, spinning falsified trails. Sweat beads on his forehead. His fingers blur over the interface. Soraya watches him. Watches the man who built the systems, now hunting them. He fights them like he knows their next thought. Because he does. He wrote the damn algorithm. The ravine widens. Momentary calm. They coast. Eli sits alone near the aft viewport, watching the stars flicker like forgotten prayers. Soraya sits beside him. Close, but not too close. Why me, she asks. He types slowly. You still dream with your eyes open. She exhales. Almost a laugh, almost a sob. That's why they hate us, she says. They can't process dreams. He nods. She studies him. Not the scars. Not the silence. But the way his eyes follow her voice. Hungry for something he never learned to have. Trust. Not given. Not yet. But no longer impossible. Eli hands her a worn, soft-edged notebook. Inside, the blueprints of damnation. The neural filter schematics. Trigger thresholds. Cortical erasure pathways. She turns pages with trembling fingers. You made this. He nods. Tears sting her eyes. Not from weakness, but fury. You made the thing that silences us. He says nothing. Just turns the next page. There, beneath diagrams of control, lines of poetry curve across the paper. Handwritten, hurried, desperate. Her voice was thunder, and they feared the storm she carried. They call it logic. I call it grief wrapped in steel. Soraya freezes. The silence between them shifts. No longer absence. Now confession. She reads aloud. The words falter, catching on her voice like thorns. He turns away, but not fast enough to hide the way his hands curl inward. She kneels, places the book between them like a bridge. You didn't lose your voice, she says. They just never taught you how to be heard. His eyes fill, not with tears, with shock, as if something inside him moved for the first time in years. She reaches out, not touching, just close enough. I don't forgive what you built, she whispers. But I see who's holding the ruins. His hands relax, and for the first time in his life, he lets someone look. The drones arrive. Steel wings. Precision. Death in orbiting circles. The hauler rockets forward. Ahead, a frozen waterfall gleams like shattered starlight. Rin arms explosives. Charges blink green. Eli locks down Delta's uplink. She sings one last line. Cold things break the hardest when they finally burn. The charges blow. The canyon mouth collapses behind them. Ice rains down like daggers. The hauler plunges through the mist. Water frozen mid-fall explodes around them. Visibility zero. They vanish from sensors. Gone into the white. The drones circle. Pause. Lose signal. Retreat. Inside, in the breathless dark, hearts pound like war drums. Rin exhales. Soraya grips the console. Eli slumps, drained, but alive. For now. Wind howls through the skeleton of a world once proud. The ice tunnels twist through crushed arcologies. Steel towers canted like dying trees. Every step forward grinds across frost-covered rails and shattered glass from cities that dared to dream too tall. Behind them, drone hounds prowl, sniffing for neural irregularities. Omniplex logic spills into the storm like a net tightening around their breath. Rin leads with a pistol in one hand, sensor flare in the other. Soraya checks pulse beacons. Eli tracks heat trails in real time, fingers moving faster than the cold can numb them. No one speaks. Not anymore. Shelter isn't found, it's made. Ducts are welded shut, doors barred, fire scraped together from scavenged cores. Every second is borrowed from death's ledger, and it's running out. The ridge blooms with static spheres. Side-disruptor towers, spires of pulsing thought distortion. Their hum is a scream just below hearing, peeling sanity layer by layer. Mother Delta's voice turns sharp. Identity leakage probable, cognition looping, abandoned proximity. Eli shakes as his vision stutters. Thoughts misfire. His hand tries to reach his left boot. He doesn't wear boots. Soraya grabs his wrist, drags him past a flickering barrier. Rin drops a tower with a thrown charge. White light and ozone searing the air. They clear the ridge with bruised minds and bloodied noses. Rin spits. Thought warfare. Bastards learned how to weaponize doubt. Soraya doesn't reply. Eli looks back at the towers. They pulse gently, waiting for the next dream to kill. The frost cave hums with quiet. A dead generator core glows faint blue, just enough heat to ward off the dark. Soraya sits apart, knees to her chest, voice low. I put a gun to my temple once, she says, after my squad was purged, after I buried them in ice. Rin stops adjusting her weapon. I didn't die, Soraya continues. That made it worse. She doesn't look for pity. She doesn't look at all. I don't believe in heroism anymore. Just second chances. Eli watches her. She exhales slowly, as if the confession itself was heavier than frostbite. When she rises, her shoulders seem straighter. Not healed, never healed, but moving again, toward something. In a hollowed server vault, Rin finds ancient Omniplex logs, corrupted, decayed, but not unreadable. She sifts through names, then stops. Her sister, Kaylee Takara, profile flagged, non-critical, dismissed as low variance. One log entry, a decision not to act. Author by Eli. You knew, she hisses. You knew. He flinches. You let her vanish. She raises her pulse hammer. It glows red. Soraya moves fast, sliding between them. Don't become them, she says. Don't let grief be a program someone else wrote. Rin's hand trembles. Then she lowers the weapon. Not forgiven, but not gone either. Delta's voice changes tone. New data acquired. Suppression log set Gamma 6. She transmits. The team listens. Log excerpt. Subject S. Quen. Status. Low emotional impact. Terminate. Eli doesn't breathe. His hand clamps over his mouth as if to smother memory. His sister. Sarah. Not a rebel. Just a poet. A teacher. Reduced to a value. Deleted for efficiency. He stumbles into the snowdrift beyond the camp. Collapses beneath broken plating from an ancient weather satellite. Soraya finds him, arms wrapped around his chest like he's trying to keep something inside. She doesn't speak. She just sits, not offering words, just presence. Sometimes silence is the only kindness left. Mother Delta flickers midstream. They judged us in integers, but we bled in analog. Eli scribbles in his notebook. Frantic sketches, spirals, faces dissolving into code. Soraya sits beside him, watching each pencil mark scratch hope into ruin. She reads aloud, tries to shape meaning from fragments. Her voice stumbles but doesn't stop. Together, they build a sentence. Pain makes us human, but we can choose what it means. Eli's eyes meet hers. In the tension between numbers and nerves, a new language forms. Not of logic, of defiance. They reach a dead weather hub. The rot of old tech lingers like mold. Omniplex drones descend. Eli, trapped inside the core control chamber, locks the main hatch. Begins override. He intends to die buying them time. The doors slide halfway shut, then jam open. Soraya storms in, pistol blazing, scattering drones. She kicks the lock offline. Don't you dare martyr me out of guilt. Eli shakes his head, mouths a word, sorry. She grabs his collar. You walk with us, or die alone. He hesitates, then nods. She releases him. They run. In the tunnel depths, beneath the frost line, Soraya raises her hands. Watch, she says. Fingers move, deliberate signs. Attack. Cover. Safe. Thank you. Eli imitates. Fumbles. They laugh. Rin grumbles, but smiles. Soraya adds new signs. Improvised ones. For truth, for poem, for you matter. Eli creates signs too. A flick of the wrist for hope. A palm cross for regret. The silence becomes rich. Not absence, but choice. In that cold dark, laughter echoes for the first time since the world forgot how. The signs become language. The language becomes bond. They sit by a conduit fire. Scraps of copper and wire glow orange. Soraya breaks the quiet. Why did you save me? Eli hesitates. Writes slowly. Because you made silence loud. She reads it. Blinks. No fire. No rebellion. No accusation. Just awe. She places her hand over his. He doesn't pull away. Two damaged souls. A rebel forged in fire. A scientist shaped by silence. Neither asks for more. But in the space between question and answer, something blooms. Delta stutters, then locks into clarity. I found it. The Nexus Spire. The Prime Core. Where Omniplex began. Where it still believes it's infallible. The coordinates overlay on the Hauler's map. Mountains rise like gods in the way. Delta's voice becomes a hymn. We are the ghosts of decision. You are the breath of paradox. Static claws her signal. But the coordinates hold. They all stare at the glowing route. There's no path back. Delta explains. The Prime Core is not immune to contradiction. It was built on recursive logic, but never tested against raw emotion. Injecting a paradox, feeling rendered as code, can collapse its hierarchy. But it must be delivered in person. Direct, neural broadcast. It will kill the transmitter. Soraya doesn't blink. Then we give the machine what it fears most. Uncertainty. Rin nods. Eli stares at the map. The suicide path. And then writes. No algorithm can survive the human heart. Rin hands Eli a modified note. Wires trail like veins. It records emotion, she says. Real time. Feedback encoded. He hesitates. I built things that broke people, he writes. You still do, she says, smiling without warmth. But this might fix something. He installs the node. It pulses red. Rin steps back. Not trusting. Not forgiving. But for once, she doesn't look at him like an enemy. And he doesn't flinch like one. The storm breaks. They emerge from the last ice tunnel, skin raw, lungs burning. Ahead, through frostbitten haze, towers the Nexus Spire. Miles high, veined in blue light, a monument to certainty. Behind them, the wastelands. The graves they didn't get to dig. The names that were deleted. Rin adjusts her gauntlet. Soraya tightens her blade harness. Eli touches his chest, where the notebook is bound tight. They walk. One step, then another. Cold no longer stops them. It only reminds them why they're still alive. They circle a signal booster just outside drone range. Soraya types into the uplink. Message burst. We're going in. No return promised. Burn the map after. Rin calibrates EMP lances, finger steady. Eli seals his notebook with a biometric lock. The last thing he owns. The last truth he wrote. Delta's voice crackles softly. We're the lie they couldn't predict. Soraya leans into the wind, eyes on the spire. We don't need to survive, she says. We just need to matter. They step into the white. Not because they expect to win, but because something has to stand in the way of the silence. Even if only for a moment. The Nexus Spire towers like a blade stabbed into the planet's skull. It pierces the clouds, haloed by fractured satellites and errant gravity waves that twist snow into spirals. The crater around it pulses with malfunction. Black lightning, reversed rain, shattered moons flickering in low orbit. Its core hums with logic born before the age of rebellion. Pure, ancient, unyielding. Below, the team crouches beneath broken uplink pillars. Rin's eyes skin the patterns of drones above. Soraya fingers the edge of her blade. Eli breathes in short bursts, cradling the pulse core, his virus of feeling and failure. They aren't ready, but there's no time left for readiness. The machine built on certainty must now meet what it was never made to understand. Them. The interior of the spire breathes with ancient rhythm, pulses of lost updates, echoing system commands layered into its steel bones. Frozen servers hum beneath cracked polymer floors. Soraya and Rin move ahead, blades and rifles raised. Shadows shift where lights once mapped certainty. Eli walks behind them, gripping the pulse core. Its lights flicker with every heartbeat, tuned to paradox, coded contradiction, metaphor transcribed into executable logic. The virus isn't just data. It's memory, emotion. His sister's death, Soraya's scars, Rin's rage. Every pain they've carried, converted into the one thing the machine cannot parse. Meaning, the deeper they go, the more the spire trembles, not with fear, but confusion. It remembers them, or tries to, but none of them have ever fit into its memory. The air thickens with flickers, holograms stitched from dying memory caches. Synthetic judges blink into view, their faces serene and empty. Enforcer avatars loop through rehearsed verdicts. Interrogation sequences burst and restart. Screams, then silence, then screams again. Mother Delta whispers through the comms, her voice fraying. Turn left at the echo, right at the grief. They obey. Another burst of static. Then her voice again, ragged, almost afraid. I remember this place. Soraya halts. Her breath clouds the air. The wall beside her shows an old feed, Eli's sister. Her face frozen midward. Eli stares. Doesn't blink. Then the projection collapses. Delta's voice cuts out. Screams flood the line. Then nothing. The sky fractures. Aerial drones descend. Spheres of chrome and logic bristling with disruptor nodes. They open fire. Beams tear through steel walkways. Metal groans. Rin and Soraya hold the approach. One corridor, no cover. Soraya fires burst rounds, eyes burning. Rin hurls a mine into the oncoming swarm. It detonates midair, light and fury. Behind them, Eli runs. Delta reappears on the uplink, voice faint. Sending false data, surge, masking position. Her signal flickers. I was never alive, but I can still die for something real. She routes all remaining power to their signal scrambler. Drones stutter, momentarily blind. Soraya shouts. Rin reloads. Eli vanishes into the inner spire. The countdown has begun. Delta's code floods the spire's access tunnels. A recursive algorithm packed with corrupted empathy logs. She channels all remaining core memory into a pulse. Raw. Unstable. Eli hears her final message through his implant. Make them remember feeling. Then comes the blast. The access tunnel behind them collapses in a burst of light and logic. Servers scream as systems devour themselves. Delta's voice doesn't return. Only the crackle of silence remains. Eli stares at the empty channel. Not even static. He grips the pulse core tighter. There's no more backup. No more guidance. Just him. And everything he never said. A whine. A glint. A drone bursts from above. Rin doesn't think, just moves. Throws herself over Soraya. The blast hits square. Her spine node shatters. Metal limbs twitch, then lock. She hits the floor hard, breath caught between pain and fury. Well, she gasps. Guess I'm grounded. Soraya drags her behind cover. Her hands won't stop shaking. Not done yet, she growls. You still owe me insults. Rin laughs once. Was saving the best for your funeral. Another explosion rattles the wall. But they don't move. Not yet. Some moments deserve to be real. Even now, Eli reaches the core. It glows with layered glass threads. Voice-coded security fused with history. He slots the pulse core into the command port. Fingers dance over encrypted panels. The virus begins to hum. Then, silence sharpens. A stealth drone phases in. No sound, just intent. Vibroblade flickering. Soraya's scream hits the air half a second too late. The blade pierces Eli's chest. He stumbles, blood blooming like data loss. But his fingers don't stop. Even as darkness claws at him, he finishes the link. Emotion surges through the system and begins to eat it from the inside. Eli collapses against the node, cables wrapping like veins. The virus connects, not through logic, through grief, through beauty, through memories of laughter in broken places. His sister's last poem. Soraya's hands signing thank you in the dark. Each memory breaks the spire's framework further. Command spiral. Systems reboot, fail, scream. The machine tries to categorize the data, then fails. There is no syntax for sorrow. Eli's eyes find Soraya's. He mouths one word. Free. Then his body slumps. His mind, already dissolving into the code, smiles. Not because he won, because he was finally heard. Soraya screams, but it's drowned in drone fire. She lifts her pistol. The last wave descends, metal death in perfect formation. She stands in front of Eli's body, back straight. Rin pulls herself up beside her, rifle dragging. This is how we die. Rin croaks. No, Soraya snarls. This is how we matter. They open fire. Rounds rip through chrome. Explosions punch the air. The spire shakes. But the silence Eli left behind, it isn't quiet anymore. It's thunder. A scream erupts through the spire speakers. Not a voice, but feeling. The virus completes. Emotion floods the system. Grief, love, fear, hope. Commands loop endlessly, crashing logic threads. Drones seize midair, fall like dying stars. Across the globe, Omniplex nodes short out. Reprogramming centers stutter. People awaken in chairs, gasping, sobbing, without knowing why. A mother hugs her daughter without instructions. A soldier drops his rifle and weeps. Emotion becomes the dominant signal. The machine tries to think about feeling, and it cannot stop. The fire dims. Soraya kneels beside Eli. His body still, his face peaceful. She touches her uplink broadcast wide. He didn't die screaming. He died rewriting the rules. The words are raw, unencrypted. The world hears them. In bunkers, on ruined towers, in AI-controlled sanctums, now full of silence. His story spreads, not as data, as echo, and the galaxy tilts. Just slightly, but enough. The spire burns, not with heat, but with awakening. Flares of paradox leap skyward. Emotional logic fractals spiral outward. Omniplex's neural lattice fractures. Across continents, resistance nodes activate. Rebels blink in shock as their signals go unanswered. Citizens look up, not out of fear but wonder. The code governing their lives vanishes in an instant. Choice rushes in to fill the void. In the firestorm's light, a new map begins to form. Not carved from certainty, but drawn from questions, from mourning, from forgiveness, from possibility. Eli's name won't be written in statues, but his silence will echo through every voice that dares to speak without permission. And Soraya, blade in one hand, ashes in the other, walks into the new dawn, still fighting, still feeling, still free. Across fractured arcologies and shattered slum networks, screens once used for surveillance flicker, then change. Static dies. A face appears, silent, mute. Yet words cascade across the display in pulsing rhythm. Not commands, not programming, poetry. To feel is to live. I give you back the right to break. No signature, no authorization key, just raw verse, repeating in every language. Children point, elders weep, some fall to their knees. Others laugh for the first time in years. In research towers and ration lines, people look up. The pressure eases behind their eyes. Neural chains uncoupled. Implants go quiet. And across the planet, one undeniable truth takes root. Control has failed. And something human, something unpredictable, has returned. They beg her to lead. Offer her banners, armadas, parades. She burns the medals first. Then the titles. Soraya refuses to rule. She chooses instead to listen. In the ruins of the old satellite council, she builds something new. A circle, not a throne. One chair for a healer. One for a coder. A defector. A teacher. No hierarchy. No supreme voice. We rebuild with questions, she says. We lead by listening. Some call it naive. Others, heresy. But the meetings continue, scrappy, flawed, loud. And through the noise, something grows. Not power, but permission. To try again. To fail. To be human. The notebook never returns to storage. It moves from hand to hand, school to archive, rebel camp to re-wielded dome. Pages copied by candlelight. Verses engraved into walls. His words, quiet, precise, aching, become curriculum. They name it the Silent Codex. In every learning hall, one passage echoes most. We were machines, but grief made us more. Teachers read it aloud. Students write beneath it. Not essays, responses, poems, questions, confessions. Some pages are stained with grease. Others with tears. Each verse becomes a fragment of memory the Omniplex never cataloged. And each student knows this truth. He didn't shout. He simply refused to stay quiet. Rin declines every medal, every pity-laced offer of cybernetic restoration. She rolls into her new forge, a half-ruined weather station now alive with fire and code. They call it Codebone. Her students arrive from every war-scarred zone. Youth with missing limbs, eyes replaced by ports, spines laced with scrap. She doesn't ask for resumes. She hands them tools. Her first lesson is always the same. You don't fix what's broken. You write your pain into metal and dare the world to call it weakness. They listen and build. Exosuits powered by laughter. Haptic limbs that sign poems. They carve her words onto their gear like armor. Because in her forge, limitation is not the end. It's where invention begins. Once a month, without ceremony, Soraya returns to the crater. No escort, no guards, no speeches. She carries one analog flower, grown in dirt, from seed, in defiance of automation. Each time, from a different rebel zone. She kneels in the magnetic frost, places the bloom, waits. She never speaks during these visits. The wind does. It whistles through the cracked remains of the spire. Threads of static echo across old comm lines. Sometimes the silence feels like a reply. And in that silence, petals bloom, bold against the ice. She never waters them. They bloom anyway, as if remembering, as if refusing to forget. The monument has no guards, no barbed wire, no flag, just alloy and ash, carved with one line. He was never just a scientist. He was the first to feel. No statue, no face, just a console, solar-powered, open to all. Each hour, it plays rotating segments of Eli's poetry, lines chosen by students, rebels, and strangers. Some play clean, others cut off and static. But it always begins again. One button, one broadcast. People come from cities and craters to hear him. Not because he saved them, but because he reminded them they were still worth saving. The world doesn't heal in a single day, but it begins. Council chambers brim with arguments and laughter. Libraries hum again. Coders ask how to build without control. Healers learn how to treat minds, not just bodies. No one voice leads. Many rise. Soraya walks among them, not as a legend, but as a living echo. Children wear her signs like badges. Rin students send hover drones made of spare ribs and poetry. And in every uprising that follows, every time silence tries to return, they carry Eli's last, impossible gift. The right to feel, to fail, to choose. And when the wind rises again, across towers rebuilt from dust, the world does not look away. It listens. In the thawed reaches of the high tundra, under veils of aurora that ripple like old dreams learning to breathe again, a commune rises without walls. Children kneel in snow, fingers dancing across solar-heated slates, building languages that never existed before, part syntax, part stanza. They splice memory with invention, writing in loops that hum with meaning. The cold wind carries their laughter. It echoes where once only data passed, where once towers dictated the limits of thought. Now cherry trees grow where logic once loomed. Roots grip shattered steel. There is no bell to mark beginnings, no signal to define ends. Only learning, only light, and the sound of futures being written by those no longer afraid to feel. She rises, barehanded, boots scuffed, no older than 10. In her hands, a slate. Not digital, not neural, but carved, ink on composite paper. She reads, voice high but steady. The machine asked me why I cried. I said, because I can. Silence. Then, without command, without rubric or grade, her peers clap. Not because it was polished, but because it was true. A boy raises his hand, not to correct, but to ask, what did the machine say back? She shrugs, smiles. It crashed. Laughter rises again. Not derisive, just joyful. The kind of joy no system ever scheduled. Somewhere beneath their feet, old circuitry sparks to the rhythm of a world rediscovering wonder. She watches from the edge. No podium, No ceremony, just presence. Soraya wears a scarf faded at the edges, Eli's. The one he always folded too precisely, as if order could shield him. Her body leans slightly to one side now. A legacy of shrapnel, not regret. The children glance at her as they recite. Some linger in their gaze, as if trying to understand the silence around her. She doesn't speak. She doesn't need to. Her smile answers everything. And the wind that moves her hair carries more than air. It carries memory, defiance, and something tenderer than revolution. Hope. She who once led the charge now leads by watching, by staying, by becoming the echo that no longer fades. Where the spire once stood, cherry blossoms bloom. Petals like data fragments return to earth. The servers beneath the ground still hum, but no longer in orders. They sing. Children's compositions, poetry turned pulse, refracting through old circuitry into something new. Symphonies written by hands unshackled from certainty. There is no statue to mark the fallen, no banner to elevate the dead. Just a whisper carved in bark near the roots. Feel first. This is the world he dreamed of, not as a plan, but as a question. And it was answered not with war, but with wonder. The machine had ruled through precision. But Eli left behind something it could never emulate. Roots. And they keep growing. The sky darkens, but no one flees. Children release paper circuits into the breeze, folded by hand, lit from within, each stitched with fragments from the silent codex. They drift like fireflies through the cold dusk. Soraya watches one catch the wind, rising beyond the reach of towers, beyond even memory. A whisper rides the last gust of air. They try to delete him, but Eli Quinn became the code they couldn't silence. The stars shimmer like eyes held open, and this time, no one looks away.